Welcome to the show, guys. We're talking about 5 bounce back players for 2023 fantasy football, rolling out that content at a steady pace here for you guys as we ramp up to dominate 2023. If you're new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe. This is outside of the box thinking to help you guys actually win your leagues. No cookie cutter consensus can sheep's rankings here, and pre-order the 16-round draft solution where I give you all the optimal players drafted in each round, sleepers, breakouts, everything you need to crush your year-long league. 16 rounds pre-order now. Use code EARLYLINE for the lowest price of the year. I've linked it below. If you're on YouTube, guys, very quick link here. If you're in the car, thefantasyfootballcouncil.com. It's all over the homepage. You can't miss it. Use code EARLYLION for the lowest price of the year. All right, let's talk about bounce back players. Now we're talking overview here of players that have recently not been, kind of where their potential needs to be. Now, this is a very early list because, again, I say it and I say it in all my videos. It can be a disclaimer that I don't lay out I don't even say rankings, but I don't lay out all my 16 rounds and where players are going to be taken on their ADP until after the NFL draft, because we get to know what happens, because there's so many question marks on so many teams. Who's going to be the quarterback? How is this guy going to do this year? How's the depth chart going to be? Are they going to draft another running back? How's the committee going to look? How are the wide receivers going to look? There's so many questions, and we don't really know a big portion of that. The big piece of the puzzle isn't there until after the NFL draft. So that's why I released 16-round draft solution, the actual solution, a week or two after the NFL draft. So again, guys, it's just more of a discussion, a thinking ahead of it, everything, before everything kind of happens. But it's very easy. These guys have a bounce back. So drop a comment below. Let me know who you think is going to bounce back below. But I'm going to go through this list of 5 players and the reasons why they're going to bounce back. First guy here, very simple for me, is Russell Wilson. Now, Russell Wilson had a bad year last year. Nobody expected him to have that bad a year, especially the Broncos, who paid him like $1 bazillion to join their team, right? So when you look at it from last year, he finished 16th, but there's a couple of things that you got to note here. Yes, he finished 16th last year. He finished 15th in completions, 292, 13th in passing yards, just over 3,500, and 16 touchdowns on the year, which is very low, puts him 19th amongst quarterbacks. Terrible year. So just based on the fact that he had a terrible year, there's no way but up. So bounce back is imminent just on that. His passer rating last year, 41st in the league, 84.42. Terrible. No way but up. Now, the plus side here. Now, if you look at it. Now, 2021 didn't have the greatest year. Finished 15th, right? So the past couple of years hasn't been the best Russell Wilson. A big part of it was he had to leave the Seahawks and he wanted to leave. So I don't think he was very excited to be there. And then when he had a new team, he had to get accommodated to the new team and learn the system and just a new scenario. I mean, you've been someplace your whole career. You got this new scenery. For many, it's not the greatest, right? So that's what happened. But here's the good news. In 2020, he finished 6th in fantasy points. In 2019, finished 3rd in fantasy points. In 2018, 9th, always top 10. And in 2017, he was the number 1 fantasy football quarterback. That being said, in 2017 to 2020, he was a top 10 quarterback. Again, 2017, first, right? So that's the type of ceiling we're talking about. Now, the big question has to happen and come here when you're thinking about it. This question is Russell Wilson done? Is he finally on the decline of his career? Is he kind of like done? Now, I don't really see that with quarterbacks till super late in their career. We saw it with Brady this past year. We saw it with Manning before a Super Bowl year. I don't think Russell Wilson's reached that grandpa type status. I still think he's got a good 1, maybe 2 more solid top 5 fantasy years out of him, or we're going to find out this year. Bottom line is this. He's going to bounce back one way or another unless he's kind of just mentally given up. So Russell Wilson as a backup quarterback with massive upside this year, and he can only do better than last year, all right? Number 2 here. I mean, this goes without saying. A lot of people are going to be jumping back on the train, including myself, is Jonathan Taylor. Now, last year, I keep saying this. Everyone said, Jonathan Taylor, draft him as the first running back off the board. I said, no, don't do it. He had a 332 attempt year. Amazing. 1,811 yards and 18 touchdowns. Very, very hard to top. So much so that the only time a running back finished 2 years in a row on top, back-to-back, was Priest Holmes, 2002, 2003. Look it up. So I was like, man, just draft somebody else. A bounce-back year for, Derrick Henry or someone like that, or Saquon Barkley, right? Don't get Taylor. Something's going to happen. Either going to get hurt or decline or something, right? Sure enough, decline. 192 attempts, under 900 yards running and rushing, and 4 touchdowns on the ground, 0 receiving touchdowns. I want to add that. Finished 33rd last year amongst running backs in PPR. Terrible. No way but up, though, right? They got to get better wide receivers. They got to figure out the receiving core. They got to figure out who the quarterback is, right? There's a lot of quarterbacks that are lingering out there at the time of this recording anyway. Maybe it's going to be a Derek Carr. Maybe it's going to be a Aaron Rodgers. Like, we don't know. Anything can happen, right? It's going to be interesting to see, but there's going to be another quarterback coming in the situation, and hopefully a lot better than last year and the years before, because the Colts have been a disaster. Maybe the Colts move up, draft a quarterback, couple good quarterbacks coming out of this NFL draft in 2023. I don't know, but what I'm saying is Taylor, barring any injury, if given the workload, which he should have, is going to have a major bounce back year. I'm getting him in the first round if I can get him. Again, very early to tell. I got to see what pans out with the draft, who's under center there, quarterback, but I'm excited about the situation for Taylor in a major bounce back where now the conscripts are going to be off of him a little bit, right? It's going to give him a little bit better value in your drafts. Even if it's a late first round, it's still better than your first overall pick in Taylor. I'm excited to see where he ends up falling this year. Okay, number 3 here, Calvin Ridley. Now, you're like, what's going on with Calvin Ridley? Now, from what I understand, he should be reinstated as early as the 15th of February this year. Shouldn't be back with the team. He can't contact the team apparently till around mid-April. That's what I'm hearing, right? Now, he had a bit of an injury in 2021, and understand he was betting on games, which led to a suspension. So this was suspension for 2022, and then 2021 he had a bit of an injury, this and that, right? Just didn't play up optimally. But in 2020, we're talking about a guy that was ultra elite talent, right? 1,374 yards receiving, 9 touchdowns, 143 attempts, and 9 targets anyway, and 90 receptions. And the years prior, now he's going into his 5th season, always been a touchdown guy, very good in the red zone area, and going to be now on a potentially high octane offense. I definitely see, as crazy as it sounds, Jacksonville winning the Super Bowl in around 2 to 3 years. That's what I'm seeing, right? That's the type of team they're looking to build. So you got the young Trevor Lawrence, which is a franchise quarterback with ultimate, great talent, which is very hard to find. A good franchise quarterback. There's only a handful. You got your Jalen Hurts, you got your Josh Allen, you got your Mahomes of the world. But after that, you got a couple other guys, but it's very, very hard now to find a good franchise quarterback, and they've got it, the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Ridley coming into an offense, mind you, there's other receivers there, but it's going to be interesting to watch and see how this plays out. And I think Ridley should theoretically be the wide receiver 1. Going to be interesting to see how much volume he gets. But major bounce back here for Calvin Ridley and a big-time sleeper. Speaking about another sleeper, Brandon Cooks. I want to make you guys aware of this right now. Finished 49th last year. This is my next bounce back player. Now, I'm not overly excited for a guy who's in his 9th season. I like the young guys, right? The young, hungry, dynamic players. But I got to mention him here, right? I got to mention Brandon Cooks because Brandon Cooks is a guy that literally had himself a bad situation. When I'm talking bad situation, I'm talking like Davis Mills bad situation here. So when you look at a guy like, Cooks, you got to say, hey, man, they could get a top quarterback. They're definitely going to get a top quarterback in the draft this year, Bryce Young or someone like that. So there's a ton of upside here, guys, for Brandon Cooks. I love the upside, love the talent, love, I wouldn't even say youth now, but the talent is there. He just needs the volume. All I'm saying is that a bounce back is possible. That's all I'm saying. Now in 2020, finished 17th. In 2021, finished 20th. He's not going to finish necessarily top 10, but I can get him as a sleeper with great value. Either way, he's bouncing back, okay? Number 5 here, we're talking Najee Harris. Now, Najee Harris is a guy that, let's compare the numbers Najee Harris here, okay? 272 attempts this past year, finished 14th in PPR. The year before, finished 3rd in PPR. The numbers were very similar. He had 307 attempts in this rookie year compared to 272, so he had more attempts. 1,200 yards on the ground versus, just over 1,000. Averaging 3.9 yards per carry in his rookie year. Not the greatest, 3.8 the second year. Both 7 touchdowns on the ground. The only difference was his 74 receptions in his rookie year and more yards and, more receiving yards and compared to the 41 receptions. So that was the big difference in where he finished 14th this past year and his rookie year 3rd, right? So more attempts the rookie year, some more yards, couple hundred more yards, more receptions, and more receiving yards, okay? But again, that was a big part of the checkdowns with Big Ben. Now, you got Pickett finally comfortable in that offense. Going into the 2022 season, there's so much uncertainty at quarterback, what's going to happen, how it's all going to play out. But Najee Harris is and should be the workhorse guy. Like, I don't see the Steelers drafting a workhorse this year. If they do, obviously that's going to tear into the volume of Najee Harris. I think they got other things to focus on, right? So Najee Harris is a guy that I still think will be a safe running back too, that's going to get the volume if they don't draft anybody else, and he's going to have a bit of a bounce back. Again, finished third his rookie season, 14th, bounce back, maybe still into the top 10, 8 to 10, if given the volume, they don't draft anybody else, and Pickett starts checking down, throwing in more receptions. That's what I want to see. So Najee Harris, am I excited about him? No. I was excited about him in his rookie year. Second year, not so much because everybody was on him. Third year, I think you're going to be safe with Najee Harris, which is good because with running back, safety is a hard thing to find. I just find he lacks explosiveness. He's just not an overly exciting player. He's not like a Breece Hall, Saquon Barkley. He doesn't have that explosiveness that I want to see. But if you want a safe running back and a bounce back player for better value than it was last year, Najee Harris, right? So bounce back guys, Russell Wilson, Jonathan Taylor, Calvin Ridley, Brandon Cooks, and Najee Harris. Drop in the comments below a bounce back player for this year that you think is going to have a big bounce back. And there's way more, so make sure you guys are subscribed. I'll be rolling out more content, all right? Grab 16 rounds right now. Thumbs up. I'll keep rolling out the content and follow on IG, #1 Instagram page at Fantasy Football Counselor for NFL news. We'll talk soon. I'm out.